Welcome to our Meet the Candidates interview series. This is David Dunsmore running for the open seat in downtown. You're one of 6 candidates. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
So I get right into it. What makes you the most qualified candidate to represent downtown Anchorage?
I've lived here in Anchorage since before I was 1 year old, and I love this town. And that's why I've devoted my entire adult life to public service. And with my experience as an Anchorage Health and Human Services Commissioner, a Chief of Staff in the state legislature, caucus director for the Alaska Democratic Party, and a legislative aide at the Anchorage Assembly, I have the proven experience working in the legislative body and getting things done for our community. So I will be able to hit the ground running and be an effective representative for my neighbors on day one, which is really important in downtown because we're the only part of town that only has 1 assembly member. So it's really important that we elect someone who can get the job done on day one. And
all right. So if voters choose you, what is it that you want to get done on day one? What's your first action or first issue you want to address?
Well, the 3 big issues I want to address are making our streets safer, solving homelessness in Anchorage, and just in general giving people a meaningful voice in city government. I want to put together a comprehensive plan to not just treat homelessness in a piecemeal approach, but actually have a comprehensive plan to end homelessness in Anchorage. So it'll involve a comprehensive bond package for affordable housing, transitional housing programs, substance abuse treatment and mental health treatment, which will leverage Alaska Housing Finance Corporation funds and mental health funds to, rather than talk about this as a problem that we're always going to be treating, move to how we can end this, end homelessness in Anchorage.
Okay, we're going to talk more about homelessness. I did want to ask you about the budget the Assembly just passed recently. Are there things in there that do you agree with it, or are there areas that you would have liked to see something differently?
Yeah. Well, these are tough times, so it's there's always going to be tough choices made. One thing I've learned working in the legislative and the assembly level is a budget's not about numbers. It's about our values and about what we're doing with the money. And our needs aren't going to go away just because state and federal grant programs go away. So moving beyond this budget cycle, we need to have a long-term plan to how we're going to continue to meet our needs to our citizens, how we're going to meet our constitutional obligation to fund education, how we're going to grow our police force back to the levels we need while still providing adequate snow removal and the other services people need. So I want to look beyond the yearly budget cycle to put together a comprehensive plan for how is the money we're spending today making Anchorage a better place to be in the future.
Do you support implementing a sales tax as a measure to take some of the burden off property owners and diversify our tax base a little bit, a sales tax under the tax cap?
I don't support a sales tax for several reasons. One, a sales tax under the tax cap will actually mean less revenue for the city. It would require creating a whole new bureaucracy with dozens of employees to enforce the sales tax, so it would actually mean less revenue. It would also be a massive tax cut for out-of-state landowners who own large commercial properties here but would pay 0 sales tax. So they would see millions of dollars in cuts, while those of us who actually lived there would be footing their bill. And it would mean actually more of a burden on the residents of the city. And as I've been going door to door and talking to my neighbors, no one has been telling me that Anchorage residents and residential taxpayers have been paying too little. Rather than see a sales tax, I would increase the residential property tax exemption to create a fairer balance between residential and commercial property taxes. So I think that is a better approach to reforming our tax system rather than just doing a sales tax, which would be a massive giveaway to out-of-state landowners.
Okay, let's talk about homelessness, one of your top priority issues to deal with. How do you think the Muni is doing right now? What grade would you give Anchorage for how we're handling our homeless problem?
Overall, in the last few years, I would say about a C or a D at the municipal level, but I would say the last year, I'd give Berkowitz a B or a B+. I really appreciate how Mayor Berkowitz has focused the resources on the money we have now, how we could use it most effectively. But I think we need to move beyond that, and rather than saying, how can we treat the problem we have now, given the limited resources, say, what do we need in order to actually solve the problem, and put together a comprehensive solution. Given the budget situation, it's going to have to be through a bond package, but there's also Alaska Housing Finance Corporation and mental health trust funds available to utilize. And I think partnering between the municipality, AHFC, and the mental health trust, we can put together a comprehensive package. And rather than going to the taxpayers and saying every year we're going to be paying more money to address this problem and it's never going to go away, saying this is what we need to make sure that when someone falls into homelessness, there's the transitional housing and the permanent affordable housing to keep them in housing, and that on day one, when someone decides that they're ready to deal with their substance abuse problems, that we can put them into a medically assisted treatment they need. I think many people are shocked when they learn Fairbanks actually has more alcohol detox beds available than Anchorage does, and they have only a third of the population. And because they have more of the substance abuse treatment per capita there, and actually on an absolute value, this is less of a problem in their community than it is in ours. And as biggest, richest city in the state, there's no excuse for us not stepping up to the plate and actually solving the problem.
All right, the mayor wants to add 56 more police officers to the police force in the next fiscal year. Do you think there are other ways the Muni could help address our public safety issues other than hiring more officers?
We have to do more than just hire more officers, but the more officers are going to be a very important component. As I've gone door to door throughout the downtown area, in neighborhoods like Inlet View and Government Hill and Bootleggers Cove, where crime has not been a traditionally historic problem, people are telling me every day about crime that they've been witnessing and experiencing in their neighborhoods. And then in communities like where I live in Mountain View and in Fairview, where I used to live, where crime has been a problem for years, people are starting to wonder if anyone even really cares about the problem. I was glad to see the mayor announce the new foot patrols for the Fairview and the Mountain View area. But something I've been hearing from people in neighborhoods like South Addition and Inlet View is we need to incorporate their neighborhoods into the community policing and the foot patrol model, because what we've seen as the foot patrols downtown have not so much prevented some of the low-level crime, but just kind of shifted it into other areas. So having the more manpower to be able to serve on a more community-driven basis different parts of our community is really important. But it goes beyond that. I want to see further investment in the community patrol programs. These are volunteer-driven programs. They're not vigilantes. They're trained by the police. They don't go out arresting people or interacting with criminals. But in the neighborhoods like Nunaka Valley, where they have very active community patrols, it has been shown to be a great help in reducing crime in those areas. So I want to see the police department have the ability to reach out, to go to community councils, go to neighborhood associations, homeowner associations, and help people proactively organize community patrols and neighborhood watch programs. I think that's going to be a huge part of addressing public safety. But we're also, long-term, the law enforcement side is only the tip of the iceberg. If we don't continue to invest in our schools, if we don't address homelessness and poverty in Anchorage, we're never going to solve the underlying issue of why crime is happening. So we can't just focus on law enforcement. We also have to focus on growing our economy and helping lift people out of poverty.
Okay, the mayor has said he will not allow our police department to round up refugees for immigration services, even under the threat of losing federal funds. Do you agree or disagree with that position?
Well, I don't think, given our limited resources, it makes sense for the city to be enforcing those immigration laws. We also have in Anchorage, we have a very strong equal rights ordinance that says that city employees cannot participate in any activity that discriminates by race, religion, sexual orientation, marital status, national origin. And many of these enforcement efforts we've been seeing from the Trump administration would be in violation of our equal rights law. So it's not even a policy for the mayor. Our police cannot do something that violates our equal rights law. So whether it's a request from the federal government or anyone, if they come down and tell us that we have to participate in an operation that discriminates against different nationalities or different religions, we have to say no, because not only is it against our values as Alaskans, as Americans, that sort of discrimination is against our law in Anchorage.
Okay, quickly, last question for you. Do you support ride-sharing companies like Uber and Lyft? Do you think we should find a way to help them operate here in Anchorage?
I do support bringing a legal way to have ride-sharing here in Anchorage. The biggest stumbling block is we have the limited entry system for cabs. So permit owners have spent a lot of money on their medallions for cabs, and there is going to be, it is unfair to simply say, now we're going to open the floodgates and anyone can be a taxi service. So the biggest question is to demarcate what privileges that a cab has that a ride-sharing company doesn't have. And I think a large part of that distinction is probably going to be that cabs will continue to be able to go around and pick people up and then to wait for customers at places like the airport and hotels, where ride-sharing people will probably have to be directly requested by a customer through their app or through a phone service. It's also important that we require full background checks for drivers for ride-sharing, and that insurance issues be figured out. At the state level, they also have to figure out making the workers' comp issues to make sure that the drivers are fully protected like any other employee, but that's something the state has to work out, not at the city level.
All right, well, David Dunsmore running for the open seat in downtown Anchorage. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you.
Best of luck.